And welcome back to Sports Talk with Dad. We have a heck of a show here for you today. A legend is leaving his sport for all eternity. We're going to also check in on our football picks and make the picks for this upcoming Sunday. But before we do that, as always, my name is Kyle, and I cannot call this Sports Talk with Dad without the man sitting next to me, a man whose blood may just be Diet Coke at this point, my dad, Tim.
You know, I don't have many vices. This is the only one.
It's ridiculous.
I don't smoke. I don't drink. My liver function is fine.
Surprisingly.
It is, though. I mean, you've said it before.
The liver that was dipped in the river with Achilles. I'm just hoping genetically I get it, my sons have it. Like, just keep passing it down. But hey, speaking of the amount of Diet Coke that you drink, it is important for you and I both really at this point in our lives to make sure we are getting our levels checked at all times. And that's why we brought in our new sponsor, Let's Get Checked.
Yeah, I mean, with your condition, with my history, especially, I hate to say it, but I am 60. So I've got to get my testosterone levels checked. And Let's Get Checked is a simple, discreet way that you can get your levels checked as well. They send you, you order the packet, they send it to you, you send back the vial, and they get you the results within 2 to 3 days.
Yeah, because let's be honest, number one, it can be embarrassing to get these checks done. And number two, for me, I've had to get my cortisol levels checked to make sure my stress levels are where they're supposed to be since I was 12 years old. And it takes time to go into the doctor and then to go in and get blood tests and then wait for the results whenever the doctor feels like calling you back. It's been pretty crazy. This is an easy, at-home, and discreet way where you get the results on your time and get those results fast to make sure you are not missing any health issues and you're taken care of quickly.
And best of all, if you click the link below and you use the code SPORTSTALK25, you're going to get a full 25% discount. You've seen all the other ads. Hey, come on over here. We'll give you a 5% discount. Let's Get Checked does this right. They're going to give you a full 25% discount if you click on the link below and use the code SPORTSTALK25.
Again, SPORTSTALK25 is the code to ensure you get 25% off. Thank you again, Let's Get Checked, for sponsoring this video. For real though, I mean, when you start getting older and nurses have to start coming, to probably change your diaper, because I won't do it, and you need IVs, do I just put the Diet Coke bottle on the IV? Just put it right in your vein?
Probably is going to be easiest. It's the quickest way to get caffeine into my system.
I mean, what a way to go. Honestly, if anybody ever told me, hey, dude's got cancer, needs to quit Diet Coke, he's pretty late stages of cancer at this point, I'd look at him and say, what's the point then?
Yeah, exactly. Whatever preservatives have been put in me, I'm close to being involved already.
Right.
Leave me alone.
I love the Patrick Swayze at the end when people were giving him flack for continuing to smoke cigarettes. And it's like, he has stage 4 cancer.
Right.
Who cares? He's not going to survive this.
Live your life.
If that's what makes you happy, that's what makes you happy. On that note, don't smoke. It's a bad thing to do.
It is. I mean, your grandfather, my dad.
Yeah.
From the time he was 13 years old, he smoked Camel unfiltered and then moved to Cool filtered, which was probably worse than unfiltered.
Probably.
But he smoked 3-4 packs a day.
Crazy.
Plus, he went through 4 or 5 pots of coffee. So you talk about Diet Coke. I mean, Dad was just, and he lived a long, healthy life.
Listen, I'm getting that way with coffee at this point the last few days now that I don't have my energy drinks to turn to. But that's been, if you ever have to quit energy drinks that you drink a lot of, your life is about to be miserable for a while. And I can attest to that because I have not had fun the last couple days.
Yeah, I know. I've talked to your wife.
Oh, my head's hurt so bad. It's hurt so bad. You know me, I don't take aspirin or Tylenol or anything. 2 reasons. One, pain is good. I'm a big believer in that. Pain is good. It's your body telling you something's wrong and then it needs to be fixed. Secondly, when I need it, I want it to work.
Right.
And that was a big issue when I was playing sports back in the day, is I was taking a lot of Tylenol and Advil to relieve pain. And then when I'd actually be in pain, it didn't work. So now I actually took some Tylenol the other day to kill my headache. So, and I probably haven't had Tylenol in 9 months.
Well, that's actually the problem. I mean, that's my big problem with opiates. It just masks the pain, and your body gets so used to it. And it's not the receptacles in your head that it's bad, it's the ones in your intestine. They just tie right to it, and they crave it, and it's hard to quit. I mean, when I went through that, I told the doctor I quit cold turkey, and he said, "You could have died with the amount you were taking." So, gladly that we are past the days of Dr. Feelgoods. We'll go into that.
Very happy with that. But yeah, it does, again, pain is good.
Pain is good.
If you take anything from this show besides awesomeness, pain is good. I've lived my life like that, and I've been healthier because of it. You've gotten healthier with that mantra. And it's funny, you and I kind of came up with that mantra together, where it's like, okay, your body's telling you something here. That's a good thing. It's a very good thing. Don't mask that. Your body is telling you for a reason.
If it hurts, don't do that as much.
Right, exactly.
Don't turn to pharmaceuticals for your relief.
No.
Alter what you're doing.
I had a broken foot about 9 months ago, which is why I was taking aspirin and Tylenol at that time. But again, what else did you want me to do then, right? The foot's broken. It is what it is. But other than that, even then I stopped taking it because it's like I need to know what this feels like to step on this foot. So pain is good.
So speaking of pain, the news of the weird and wild today. Did you see the World Chess Championship took place?
Oh my God, yes, I follow it 24/7. No.
Your sarcasm meter was off the charts on that.
You're welcome.
Jeez, be a little more sincere. Anyways, kid from the United States who was either unranked or very lowly ranked beat the #1 player in the world, and of course the #1 player wasn't happy. And what did he accuse the United States player of doing? Having anal beads in that he was getting electronic signals from somebody to tell him what moves to make. I kid you not. Same reaction I had.
Hold on.
Apparently.
Time out.
Okay.
What?
Apparently, the American guy who won the championship, beat the #1 Russian, is accused of putting in anal beads and having somebody send him through electronic impulses the moves to make in order to beat this guy. Apparently, there's a computer someplace that said, no, you make this move, and he would wait for the stimuli, and then he'd make his move. That had to be a royal pain in the behind. I don't know if it's, the guy from the U.S. is.
I'm not normally speechless when you tell me stupid news. I'm apparently going to start paying closer attention to chess.
Well, the story hasn't completely resolved itself yet.
That means there's something to it. If this hasn't completely resolved itself yet, that means that may have happened.
The guy from the U.S. is denying it, which there are so many bad jokes that I could make right now, and I'm not going to make one of them. I already made the one bad joke. But so it's also, changing the subject real quickly, it's also National Cinnamon Raisin Bread Day, which is my favorite kind of bread.
Yeah, I'm still processing what you just told me.
I wonder if the chess guy had the cinnamon raisin bread before and what happens if he has to use the restroom like Inga Swiatek did in tennis? Beads come out? Beads go back in?
I don't know exactly I don't know. I don't know. I want to move on from this now. I
so badly want to start the jokes. I've got, oh,
okay, I'm awake now.
Did he enjoy it?
On to Roger Federer, who is the legend we were discussing, has announced he is going to play in one more tennis tournament and then is going to walk away from the sport for good, officially retiring at 39 years old. Heck of a career.
I always said Rod Laver, because he won 2 Grand Slams, was the greatest player of all time.
It's the biggest argument. One of the biggest generational arguments you and I have is probably around Roger Federer versus Rod Laver. Because Roger Federer had to win on all 4 surfaces.
He did.
And has won on all
Sort of-
4 surfaces.
Laver
won on 2 surfaces.
No, he won on hard courts as well, just not in the majors at the
He
time.
won on grass and he won on hard court.
No, he won on grass and clay, actually. I think Australian, the U.S. Open at the time, and Wimbledon were all played on grass, and the French was played on clay.
Did he ever play on hard court then?
Sure. He won WCT on hard court indoors, and granted, hard court wasn't as big back then. The surfaces were harder to do and whatever. Still had to beat arguably better or at least equivalent talent that Federer did. And I'm not taking Federer could have played back when Laver played very easily.
He could have.
He had that kind of game. He had all the shots in the world. Honestly, I think of the current players, when you've got Federer, Nadal, Djokovic.
They all could play back in the day. I would argue back in the day, Nadal,
he would have had a harder time.
Doesn't win as many tournaments. He'll still win on clay.
I would have loved to have seen him board play.
Yeah, the issue with Nadal and the way he's allowed to play in today's game versus how he would have had to play back when wood rackets were around is he would have had to move a lot more. And with his knee injuries,
it would have been tough.
Because he had knee injuries early in his career.
He did.
And I just don't know. I don't think they would have held up as much with that much movement.
I think Djokovic would have been very much like Jimmy Connors back in the day and would have won a lot. I think, obviously, Federer could serve it. He could do it all. He served and volleyed. He went to the net. He could do it all.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have seen them play. And that's the thing I hate about this. You can't compare because it's just end the points as quick as you can now, where back in the day it was all strategy. I would have loved to have seen them play with an equivalent type of equipment.
I agree. I would love for tennis to roll back. I think it's the only way to save itself now, is you have to roll back the equipment. At least at the professional level, you have to roll it back.
I do too.
Because who knows, maybe Nadal, without having to go back and forth like that, maybe his knees wouldn't have given out as quickly. I think they would have, because it's still, speaking from somebody who had a knee injury in tennis, right. I mean, it's tough going up and back and all over the place. It does, and that's where tennis has failed. But Roger Federer, in my opinion, is the greatest. I think he is better than anybody else that has ever played this game, and it's sad to see him go. But it was time.
I loved watching Federer play. Don't get me wrong. While I love Laver for reasons because of the 2 Grand Slams, I think a match between him and Federer in their primes would have been epic. And
yeah.
Federer was probably had every shot that every great player that's ever played the game had. So arguably the greatest player to ever, on the men's side, to ever hold a racket.
The greatest player to ever hold a racket.
Arguably.
The greatest player. But you let us know what you think in the comments below. And while you're down there, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get to enjoy this show as much as we enjoy making it. We got some football picks that we had last week.
It was so ugly. I don't know if we've ever had a worse week.
I mean, I have. Personally.
I've never had a week that bad. 45 points out of 136.
45 points out of 136. For those of you watching, you can now see on the screen our picks. It was a pretty bad week.
Well, I think everybody had a rough week. I think the actual leader in the clubhouse from our pool that we're in is at 67. So it was a hard week. A lot of upsets. Denver losing to Seattle, I was shocked.
I didn't see that one coming. I didn't see Geno outplaying Russell Wilson in those games. I think that Russell Wilson really got rattled being back in Seattle, and he did not get a warm welcome.
No, he did not.
In Seattle.
Favre got a better welcome coming to Green Bay than Wilson got. He was booed incessantly.
Right. At least Favre had a couple people cheering for him in the stands. There was not a single person that could be heard, at least, cheering for Russell Wilson in those stands. They turned on him quick.
There was not a single number 3 Seattle jersey that I saw.
Not Seattle. There are Denver fans there. No Seattle jerseys. And wait for Pete Carroll to turn the narrative. Because he basically looked at Seattle, the team, and looked at the city and said, this guy said we're not good enough. And he has to go someplace else to be the player that he's meant to be. And you felt that animosity in that stadium.
Well, and I think there was also the fact that Pete Carroll outcoached Hackett in Denver.
Yeah, I don't understand the last
rookie coach between a veteran coach. And the game plan that Seattle had in place with Geno Smith, Geno played unbelievably.
Well, and here's the thing. That's the system Pete Carroll's wanted to run.
Sure.
Right? Geno Smith stayed within the system, and they looked amazing.
And then there was Green Bay and Minnesota.
I don't want to talk about that, but at the same time, you and I had predicted that. Like, I refused to pick Minnesota because of my Packer fandom,
right.
But I will say Minnesota is better than I thought they were.
Jeffries owned the field last night, and
Jefferson.
Justin Jefferson.
Yes.
He owned the field, and Aaron Rodgers made his views known on Pat McAfee when he reminded everybody he wanted to draft him a couple years ago.
Yeah.
The Packers wouldn't jump up and do it. Minnesota did, and give him credit for it. I was surprised to see that the Packers didn't have somebody shadowing him. But that would have left a lot of other guys open.
It would have. If you have somebody shadow and all of a sudden they're moving around as much as Jefferson does, all of a sudden now you have to completely shift your coverage by shadowing. And with the corners we have, it shouldn't have been as much of an issue. I think the biggest problem is that we didn't play man. It was very much a zone scheme.
Everybody's falling in love with zone all of a sudden, which I'm surprised about.
Very much so. We got pressure on them, which was good.
Some pressure. It
was week 1. This is the issue when you don't play starters.
Correct.
I mean, none of those players, this was their first game in Green Bay. And that was the same issue we had last year. 40 people sat out last year. I think 30-something sat out this year.
I'm going to add one more thing to it. This shows where, Russell Wilson goes to Denver. He works with them every OTA. Peyton Manning back in the day used to fly his receivers, new, old, someplace and work with them for weeks. The first time Rodgers met some of these guys was at training camp. When you're making the money he makes, get your ass into training camp and work with your new receivers.
That was the first time he played with Watson.
It showed.
And, I mean, that was the worst drop of all time.
It was right. I mean, he could have handed the ball to him.
Right.
Better than that.
But it was definitely, but you can't blame Rodgers. There was a lot of drop passes. There was a lot of missed routes. It just was sloppy football on Green Bay side. But again, we saw that last year in week 1. There's no panic button. They got the Bears coming up at home, which should be a walk in the park, despite what you think.
No, it's not going to be a walk in the park. I think it could be a disaster in the park.
But I will say the Jaguars disappointed me. I thought they were going to look better in week 1. I still have a lot of faith in them.
There are a lot of those kind of games. I was shocked at Carolina not beating Cleveland.
Yep. But here's one that I knew that you made this pick, and I didn't want to. I wanted to pick the Bears for this game.
And I took the 40.
You took the 49ers.
It really looked like the 25s.
How long does Trey Lance have?
Not long.
How short is that leash?
Another 2 weeks at most.
I think you have to give him 5 weeks at this point. Because once you bench him, we've talked about that, there's no going back. Yes, the field was rainy. It was a brand new field in Chicago that nobody had really played on before.
It was pouring rain.
And it flooded. Badly.
That wasn't the Bears' fault. The field, I think, was good. But they got like 6 or 7 inches of rain.
It was one of the biggest rainstorms Chicago has seen in a while, and obviously the drainage was terrible, which is, again, why they want to move out of Soldier Field.
As evidenced by one of the most obscure rules being called that I didn't even know was a rule. with the kicker when he went and patted. All he did was put the towel down to soak up a little bit of water and threw it away, and he was flagged.
Yeah, I mean, they take shovels out to shovel off snow when it's snowing for field goal kickers. I don't know why.
I don't know why he can't put a towel down. I mean,
Maybe it's because he left the towel there. Maybe that was
it was
the penalty.
because he patted the water down. But it was Trey Lance, getting back to the real reason they lost. Trey Lance looked awful.
He looked really bad. I mean, despite the rain, he was missing throws that his backup was making last year on a pretty regular basis.
Jimmy G would have won that game going away because the Bears didn't look that good, but it was San Francisco keeping them in the game.
Yeah, they didn't. The defense was beat on several occasions, and Trey Lance just missed those throws. I was really impressed in the second half with Justin Fields.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's starting to turn into the quarterback I always thought he would be. It's just a matter of putting a team around him. I still don't think the Bears are going to win a lot of games this year, but I do think Justin Fields is taking some strides in becoming
better coaching.
He started to look off of his first receiver. That was a big issue for him in the first half, is he was really just looking at one guy and then taking off. In the second half, he started to look at that second guy and third guy.
It's a problem.
I hope he continues.
It's a problem with every rookie quarterback who's got wheels. Rodgers did it back in the day more than he does now.
Right. It takes time. He's going to have growing pains. He has to be your quarterback of the future. You can't blame a quarterback for playing on a crappy team.
Here's the thing. I think you're exactly right. This is the old Kurt Warner, Eli Manning situation where if you pull Trey Lance, he's done. You're moving on from him.
Correct.
But I think San Francisco still has lofty goals, and they know they can be a Super Bowl contender. And when you've got your Super Bowl contending quarterback behind the guy you put in there, clock is ticking. The fans are already screaming. I've seen some San Francisco blogs where they're like, put Garoppolo in now. Just cut your losses, forget Trey Lance, and let's go back with Jimmy G and see how far we can ride him.
He did not look impressive at all. Trey Lance has never looked impressive in any of the times I've seen him. He hasn't looked good in preseason. He definitely didn't look good against the Bears. I mean, it was just rain. It was a lot of rain, don't get me wrong. But in an offense that's built to run, the way it's built to run, rain can't. That's where your strength shows up.
He looked like Jordan Love. I mean, it was real close. He did not. He had those kind of problems where Jordan Love just doesn't look like he's picked up on the schemes and on the speed of the game. Trey Lance didn't either. Now maybe he will, but I think it's going to be a very short leash.
I think it has to be, because again, that's a very good team that should be winning a lot of games, and you have a quarterback that's proven to know this system and win in this system.
He was in the NFC Championship last year.
Yeah.
And almost won the game.
Right.
You haven't lost much. Talent is still there. The only thing you've changed is one position.
You got to give him a couple more weeks, though, especially with the game coming up, which brings us into our picks of this upcoming week. We already did get home the Thursday night game.
Thanks to me.
Thanks to you. I picked the Chargers, but man, did those Chargers look good. They're better than I thought they were going to be. I've said that already, and I'll say it again. They look. Justin Herbert
is finally coming around. He made huge strides. I mean, they're playing probably the best team in the AFC, maybe all of football, and that's going to be the problem in that division. They are going to rush each other.
Yeah,
it's probably the best division I've seen in my lifetime. I can't remember a division that's got this much power in it.
I mean, that's impressive considering that spans all of football.
I didn't need you to go that way. That's not why
if you think of divisions, I mean, you've been there for all the divisions.
They've got... You're just... I used to love you. Anyways, I can't remember a time when there was 4 teams in one division that were all good.
No, there's always one outlier, and they are all great, and 3 of them can make it to the playoffs this year. It's just a question of who's going to be the one left out. But getting back into the picks here, You and I fought on a couple of these. Now,
We did.
again, if you're watching the show, you can see the points up here now because we're not going to go in detail on all the games, but I did want to talk to you about a couple of games here. And a big one, speaking of the 49ers, that you and I argued about before this show a lot when making these picks, was the Seattle at San Francisco. We ended up going my pick. You gave me this one because I had to relent on a couple other ones. But we went Seattle because, again, I have no faith in Trey Lance at all.
And I wanted to go San Francisco because I just think overall they're a better team. It's a low point game. We only put 4 points on it. I can't argue it because Seattle won last week.
Listen, they won in a high animosity game. That was their Super Bowl for the year. I truly believe that. They came ready to play.
Then why are we taking them this week?
Because, again, this is not believing in a quarterback that's on that team. I just don't.
I'll tell
I
you
think
what.
Pete Carroll's a great coach. I think they have a really good team there. Again, I don't think they're going to win a lot of games this year, but I do think they take a week 2 victory to start 2-0.
Look, I think Geno is better than people gave him. Have you ever seen him play?
He's more mature now, for sure, than they've ever seen him play. Rex Ryan was talking about him because he obviously had him as a starter for a little bit, and he's like, listen, he always had the talent. It was just getting his head straight.
Well, it's apparently straight now. I'll tell you this much. This is San Francisco's home opener. If Seattle comes in and beats him, Trey Lance may not see the field next week.
He might not.
I think this is the test. You can't lose to Seattle. You cannot lose to them. But we went with Seattle, and I did bow to your pick.
We did. The other one, and we're just fighting about, was the Packers and Bears.
You put 13 freaking points on Green Bay.
Yeah.
Why? After
Because
the way they looked, the Bears look better than this. They won against San Francisco.
they didn't look good.
They
The
didn't.
Niners looked bad.
Fine, but Jesus, not 13 points.
The only reason they're at 13 points is because that's the most amount of points you allowed on that game.
It was what we had. We could have moved some things around. You wanted to put 16 on them, and that never happened.
Listen, I don't have the t-shirt on right now, but there is an I Still Own You t-shirt that I have that I will be wearing on Sunday.
The last time I bet on Green Bay for 16 points, they lost badly.
Which is fair.
I'll never do that again, and I'm not going to allow you to do that. 13 points is too much. Chicago has every chance to come into Green Bay, and they could win.
How do you
should have been
think
our
that?
1 point game.
Again, the Bears didn't look good last
Neither
week.
did Green Bay.
Right, but that was the same thing last year. There's a big difference in having Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback versus a very young Justin Fields.
Did you see the wide receivers on the field last week?
It was the first time he played with half of them.
Okay. It's going to take him several weeks to get in sync. And granted, Alan Lazard is going to play, so he's got his third string wide receiver as number 1 this year. That just still boggles my mind. You couldn't have went and got him any help, any number 1 receiver? Really? Anyways, I think this is a real chance for us to lose 13, and it's on you.
I'll take it. The other one we argued about, there's 2 in a row actually here. We argued about the Lions and Commanders and the Jaguars and Colts. The Lions and Commanders, I get the argument. I do. But I do think the Lions are better than they showed last week. I think they're at home now, and I do think they're going to win 7 or 8 games. And this is one of them. If you're going to win 7 or 8 games, this is the one you have to win.
Hey, look, I picked Detroit to get into the playoffs, so they've got to start winning some of these games. I just seem to see more than I saw last week. And granted, they played Philadelphia, and they made a big comeback and almost won.
Well, and the Lions even last year played great in the second half.
They did.
That hasn't been an issue for them. It's just you got to score some points in the first half and stay in the game. So when you do show up in the second half, you can take over games. They're fighting from too much behind, and that was the problem last year. And if that trend's going to continue, then they're going to win 3 games again.
They're a true number 1 quarterback away. I mean, Goff is good, but
Goff is your quarterback for the next 3 years at least.
I know, but I don't know that he can get you to the promised land.
I mean, you need to you can make the decision next year. This is the last year where it's a big part of his contract that you still have to cover. But why? why move on from Goff?
Oh, well,
Unless he starts to tank this year, but I just don't think he will.
The season's going to determine it. And, if you put one of the top echelon quarterbacks in Detroit, I think they're capable of winning 10, 11 games. It's just a matter of how far can Goff take him. Now, Goff, people forget how good he was quarterback. With the Rams. He played in the Super Bowl. So we'll see.
And I don't believe in Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins looked great last week. But it's Mr. Roller Coaster himself.
Right. He was playing the Packers last week. And it was the first Packers #1 game. If last year against New Orleans, this year against the Vikings, any indication, never bet the Packers in week 1.
No, it's a bad idea. The Jaguars, I still have a lot of faith in. You have apparently lost all faith in the Jaguars.
I haven't lost all faith, but I still think
Trevor Lawrence needs to take that next step.
The only concession I got on this is it's a 3-point game. So we don't have a lot of faith put on there. I still think Trey Lance is going to be great. He's got a good coach finally. So I could see Indianapolis by right should win this game, but they should have won last week easily and didn't. So
it's the Colts' curse, and then they shouldn't win easily. Jacksonville's got a good team. They just need to start putting it all together on the field.
I was going to say all evidence to the contrary.
They came back last week.
They did.
They came back. They had a chance. Here's one that I had to take a concession on, which is the Pittsburgh Steelers is our pick to win this week. I obviously wanted to go Patriots. You picked the Steelers.
I did.
At home.
At home. That's why. I think the Steelers have a good home field advantage. Trubisky looked okay last week. Their defense looked really good. They beat a really good team. New England's got a lot to prove this year, and I don't think they're going to be as good as people say.
Listen, they do. If they don't show up this week, then I may be jumping off this bandwagon pretty quick. But as of now, like I said, I picked them for the Super Bowl. I really have a lot of faith in Mac Jones. He didn't look good last week. I have a lot of faith in him coming back this week and just running the table on these guys.
I don't think so. I think Pittsburgh is going to win at home. You've got coaches. If the cheater is the #1 quarterback or coach in football, Tomlin's a step below.
Tomlin's a great coach.
He's a very, very good coach.
I'm not denying you there. It should be a good game. I didn't believe in 6 points on that, but
Trubisky
whatever.
Did not. I think you're going to, from what I saw last week, Kenny Pickett's going to be in before the season's out. Trubisky did not look great. They won in spite of him.
That's fair.
My question is going to be, is TJ Watt, who should have been a Green Bay Packer, got hurt. And he really should have been. Packers could have drafted TJ Watt. He's going to be a Hall of Famer, and they completely whiffed on him. But he did hurt his shoulder. He's week to week.
He's not playing this week.
Is he officially out this week?
He's out this week.
That's going to make it tough, but I still think Pittsburgh can put it together.
It could be a game-time decision, but I don't think he's going to be. I think it's all been announced. The last game I wanted to talk about, because the rest of these were pretty good. I mean, Giants and Panthers, we were kind of up in the air. You and I both decided to go Giants on that one for low points, just because Giants looked good last week.
It looked okay.
And the Panthers
did not.
Right. That's that one. But the last one, you and I, an argument on points here, and this is just a belief in teams that vary, which is the Minnesota Vikings and the Philadelphia Eagles. It's one of the Monday night games. We decided on 1 point as our 1 point game. Both went Vikings. You argued a lot for the Eagles.
It's at home. Philly is good at home. I think Minnesota is set up for a letdown. They were keyed up for Monday night, or for the game against the Packers. Sunday afternoon, not Monday night. Sorry about that. And they really played like they were keyed up and they were ready to roll. They had something to prove to Green Bay. I don't know if they can carry that through I think Philadelphia is a good team. They're going to be contending for the NFC title. I think they're better than Minnesota.
Minnesota has
Kirk Cousins.
should have been. Philadelphia has Jalen Hurts, who got benched in college. Like I don't want to hear it. But you have a Vikings team that has been primed to be good for a long time. And the question is did their head coach and Mike Zimmer, was he the one holding them back? And last week showed it was. Kirk Cousins looked like an MVP candidate in week 1. And I think he's going to repeat that performance this week. The Vikings, as a Packer fan, the Vikings scare me. The Vikings could easily be the team coming out of the NFC if they continue to look how they did in week 1.
Look, I would not be shocked at all if Minnesota won the Central or the North. Thinking the old
alive while divisions first existed.
Yes. I would not be surprised. Matter of fact, I think Minnesota should be the favorite in the division. I don't know why they're not, because Green Bay does have the new wide receiver core. It's going to take a while for them to gel.
Because it's the same team in Minnesota. I mean, all they did was lose pieces and add Zadarius Smith. That was the only thing Minnesota really did. And they changed the GM and they changed the head coach. And that seemed to be the difference in week 1.
It did. Well, Kirk Cousins was getting the ball to Jefferson. Why do I keep saying Jefferson?
I don't know.
Anyways, kept getting the ball to him. Jefferson was open all night long.
He was.
He may be the second best wide receiver in football, next to Devontae Adams.
Slowly probably will become the best in football.
So there you go. You get a wide receiver like that, and you can own the division very easily. We put 1 point on it because it should, by all rights, it's a toss-up game.
I don't think it is. I think the Vikings are going to run away with this. Again, I don't believe in Hurts. I don't. He looked fine last week. Good for the coach for taking his skill and really designing an offense around it. I think that's good, but you spent a lot of money on this team, especially on wide receivers. This guy's got to start throwing the ball better.
The other game that I looked at and we went with your pick on it, is Miami over Baltimore.
Miami looked great against them last year. They figured out Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson's getting a lot of pressure put on him because of these contract talks.
Sure.
And I think you started to see it a little bit last week, it getting to him, and I think you're going to see it more this week getting to him. Because here's the issue is you don't have an agent taking this on. This is him. This is his contract and his mom, and everything personal that's going to be said is getting back to him. And at that point, I mean, how do you not take it personal? The team you're playing for, sweat and blood. It's not personal. It's business. But he and his mom are going to take it as personal attacks.
And look,
I would too.
Miami's by right should be the best team in their division. So it's going to be a good game. We put 8 points on it.
I think Miami's going to win big. I would have put more points on it if it was just me.
We'll find out.
I don't. Baltimore's got a lot to prove. They have a lot to prove this year, and it's a matter if Lamar can take the pressure of this contract year.
It's in Baltimore.
He has the most. We've already talked about. He has the most pressure on him this year than any other player in the NFL.
It's in Baltimore is the only thing I'm thinking. I mean, we did 45 points. We have nowhere to go but up.
Yeah, we're safely in last place.
Safely by a mile. So, I mean, no, do not take our picks and go to Vegas.
Take them.
If you do, it's on you. But I feel pretty good about this week's pick.
I do too. Last week was very much toss-up. It's week 1 for us every single year, and we come back in the second half. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Let us know your picks. Let us know why we're right, why we're wrong. And while you're down there, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get to enjoy this show as much as we enjoy making it. I think we've had a heck of a show already today. Any last words before we head out?
Aaron Judge, go ahead and beat the record as soon as possible. I hope Poole starts hitting. I want to see him get another couple on the board.
Hey, you and me both. Thank you so much for tuning in. We always appreciate you being here. And don't forget to tune in next week. We have a couple more episodes coming your way with some amazing planned topics. Thank you again so much for watching. We'll see you next week. This has been Sports Talk with Dad.